Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of CPPR, I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's online book discussion on Assam, Inside and Outside, authored by Mr. K.V. Thomas, former Assistant Director of the Intelligence Bureau and Senior Fellow at CPPR. And thank you, everyone, for joining us live today. When we talk about Assam and the Northeast, the conversation often comes up in fragments. Sometimes it's around security, sometimes it is around migration or identity, and sometimes only during moments of crisis. What's often missing is a longer, grounded view that brings together history, lived experience, and policy. That's exactly what the book is setting out to do. Published by Manas Publication in 2024, Assam Inside and Outside traces the historical, demographic, ethnic, cultural, and insurgency related developments in Assam and examine their impact on the wider Northeast. A key strength of the book is its blend of rigorous analysis with first hand experience drawn from the author's decade long association with Assam during the peak years of Assam movement and the insurgency period that followed. Importantly, the book also put forward policy oriented recommendations aimed at long term socio-economic development and stability. It is my pleasure to introduce the author, Mr. K.V. Thomas. Mr. Thomas has over 36 years of distinguished service in the Intelligence Bureau, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, and retired as an assistant director. His work spans intelligence, national security, policing, human and civil rights, ethnic conflict, and left wing extremism. He is also a senior fellow in internal security and extremism at CPPR, and we are glad to have him with us today. A warm welcome to today's discussion, sir. Today's discussion will be moderated by Dr. D. Dhanuraj, Chairman of the Center for Public Policy Research. Dr. Dhanuraj is a leading public policy analyst with over 2 decades of experience in public policy research, advocacy, and stakeholder engagement across education, governance, and regulatory reform. Before we begin, a quick note to our audience. Please feel free to share your questions in the YouTube chat. We will be taking up questions toward the end of the sessions, time permitting. And with that, I now invite Dr. D. Dhanuraj to take the discussion forward and engage with the author on key themes of Assam inside and outside. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Dhanuraj.
Thank you, Sri Lakshmi, and it's my pleasure to host our senior fellow and our mentor guide, Mr. K.V. Thomas, for this conversation on his book, Assam, Inside and Outside. A very interesting book, very insightful book, a lot of data and also a lot of anecdotes and historical analysis of the region. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, sir, for publishing this book. I think it is going to be a very important book for anybody who tries to understand Assam and also any scholarship. I think I would suggest these books to anybody who wanted to understand Northeast for that matter. Sir, we get to the conversation, and in your preface, you started by saying that I'm trying to capture. I'm quoting from your preface. I'm trying to capture 50 years of Assam. But in fact, this book is actually captured not only 50 years, I think it has captured centuries, starting from Mahabharata, the anecdotes in Mahabharata to your service story experiences. And I found it very, very insightful and also very illuminating to understand Assam, especially the pre-independent Assam, before the old state was, when afterwards we divided the states into various smaller states, as well as we proceeded with the various struggles and movements in the region that we witnessed. When you said 50 years, I was thinking like I was not even born. And my, I think my understanding of Assam from my school days to college days is always about the ethnic movements in Assam. Every other day, we very frequent in Kerala, where I live. We used to read some clashes, assassination attempts, killings, a massacre in Assam. That was very, very disturbing as a young boy. And today, when I was reading, when I read this book, I think I understood quite a lot about the reasons, the context of these killings that was very sporadic in Assam region, and a lot of turbulence also. As a student of political science later on in my college days, I think I looked at Northeast and especially the imposition of president rule. And you briefly touched upon president rule imposition, especially in late 80s and early 80s and late 80s. We will come to those discussion as we proceed with this conversation. Sir, before you start the conversation, sir, we would like to hear from you. What was the thought process that encouraged you to write this book? And we are all benefiting from your scholarship, your experience. Then we can probably start the conversation. I have to ask you based on the chapters that you've written here. Over to you, sir.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Dhanaraj and CPPR for giving an opportunity to discuss about this book, Assam Inside and Outside, which was published by Manas in 2024. So coming to your first question, what prompted me to write this book? Exactly, I spent almost 10 years, 1 decade in the state of Assam, was from 1979 to 83, during the peak hours of Assam movement, and subsequently during the period 1989 into 1993, the turbulent period as you described, the time of ULFA, that is United Liberation Front of Assam, and 2 successive operations by Indian Armed Forces, that is Operation Myriad and Operation Trial. And in the 1979 to 85 Assam movement period, and also during the 2 operations period, I could directly participate and collect a lot of data connected with this Assam movement on Operation Ulfa and Operation Bajrang and Rhino during this period. So all these ground level data has been incorporated in this book. Besides that one, I had interaction with a lot of political leaders and think tanks. For example, if you say that the 1979 to 85 Assam movement, the main key players behind the movement was a lot of think tanks and intellectuals like, for example, Nagan Saikia, who was stationed at that time at Dibrugarh, subsequently elected as a AGP MP to the Lok Sabha. Then Mahendra Boro is an eminent personality of this Assam Sahitya Sabha. Then Keshavananda Bharati, another very famous in the Dibrugarh University. Not only that one, number of AGP leaders who subsequently became at that time were all Assam students union leaders. To cite, for example, that is Prafulla Kumar Muhutta, Briju Pukat, Chandramohan Patwari, and even the present minister, Sarvananda Sonowal. He was from Dibrugarh district. With a lot of interaction could be made regarding the movement as an intelligence officer and a friend of Assamese people. Not an intelligence officer, but as a friend of people to know about the socio-economic, demographic features and peculiarities of the state, I could interact with these persons. Then coming back to the second phase of this Operation Bajrang and Operation Rhino, I could get opportunity to interrogate a large number of senior leaders of ULFA. Even some of them have now dead and perished, who were intercepted or arrested by defense forces, that is military and central paramilitary forces, and the joint interrogation conducted of the senior leaders. And based on the interrogation reports, I could gather a lot of inside information about the militant organizations. As you asked that, for example, from the one end of the Assam to the other end of the Assam, North Bank and South Bank, Lower Assam, Middle Assam, and Barak Valley, I could undertake extensive tour covering almost all these districts. All these facts were properly reflected or incorporated in this book, under different heads, and also based on the earlier write-ups and the research work of a lot of eminent personalities, and the historical facts were also included in the first part of the book, but the main focus was on the last 40 years, as you pointed out, the 50 years. And one thing also I like to mention that the manuscript which I prepared, the title, I have given to the title, or suggested the title, The Agony of Assam. But the publishers changed the title because it is Assam inside and outside. Why I preferred the title, The Agony of Assam? Out of the 13 chapters, except the last chapters looking ahead, almost all the other chapters, including in the historic period also, I tried to highlight how much agony and sufferings the Assamese people had to undergo all these years. So I suggested the title of The Agony of Assam, but when the book was finally published, the publishers adopted the title Assam Inside and Outside.
Thank you, sir. I think you're right. I know lots of anecdotal experience that enriches this book, and also the numbers, the data. You're given so many tables in this book in many chapters, starting from disasters to alpha attacks in Assam. How many were killed and what was the context and all. It's very truly a very enriching experience for somebody like me, reading and understanding the context of Assam, especially, we will come to that discussion later in this conversation about the NRCs and CAAs and all. But your book actually starts from the Mahabharata period to the ancient times, and you are, touching upon some of the anecdotal stories of this from those epics, how Kamru was, that how that name was received, how that region got the name. And you also touching upon many of the invaders to Assam, Ahom dynasty. I actually, frankly speaking, before reading this book, my understanding of Ahom's presence in Assam was limited. I know that there is a connect with Southeast Asia, but you have very briefly, succinctly, but in detail, I would say at the same time, easy to read that chapter to understand how Ahoms played a very important role, and then later Mughals and British, how they came to Assam and how different ethnic groups also received or reciprocated to these various invaders. So I'll start from this. I think the three terms or phrases that he kept on using in this book is, one is Upper Assam, Lower Assam, Brahmaputra Valley, and Barak Valley. And to those who are watching this video, also remember that we are discussing pre-independence time. So Assam was a big region that time. And if you have to understand, as the author says in his preface, if you have to understand today's Assam, we have to understand Assam of maybe 100 years back, at least before 1947, how Assam looked like, and what were the native population, and who are the people who actually moved to Assam for various reasons. I'm sure author will discuss it in detail in this conversation. So we can start from there. The importance of these divisions of Assam. Brahmaputra Valley, Barak Valley, Upper Assam, and even today's political economic honors people use it. Any discussion, I think, starts from that. So I'm sure you can explain it to everyone here, how important these divisions, the various divisions within the Assam region.
Thank you, Doctor. It's a very pertinent, relevant question, because in order to understand the Assam in a proper perspective, especially on the demographic, geographic features and socio-economic background, this discussion is very fruitful, because we can roughly, I will not go into the details of all these portions, but in nutshell, I will cover all these things. There are four distinct regions, geographic and demographic regions. And first is the Upper Assam. The Upper Assam districts, that is on the north bank and south bank of Brahmaputra, the districts falling on the north bank and south bank of Brahmaputra. And these districts are, for example, coming from the Upper Assam districts, we say for Sibsagar is there, Jorhat is there, Tinsukia is there, Dimbrughar, then Sonitpur. Then the other side of the Brahmaputra, there are the Demaji and North Lakhimpur, these districts are there. In roughly, these districts are called as the Upper Assam districts, that is falling on the south bank and north bank of Brahmaputra river. So these districts are very important from the socio-economic and political angle. If you say, for example, of the electoral perspective, if you say these districts cover, out of the 126 assembly constituencies in the state, say about 40 constituencies fall under the these Upper Assam districts. And also, out of 14 Lok Sabha constituencies, 4 constituencies fall under this Upper Assam district. So, predominantly, the Upper Assam district has a caste orientation in the sense that Ahams have decisive influence in this area, that upper caste Hindus and also tribals, various tribals like Ramas, Bhattaks, Morangs, Riyangs, Soravals, and different tribals are also inhabited in this particular area, this Upper Assam region. So traditionally, if you say from a political or electoral point of view, this region has become one of the very strongholds of the NDA dispensation, and particularly in BJP, because of various socio-economic and political factors. Because of the demographic orientation is the main factor. Comparatively, in this region, Muslim population or minority population is comparatively less. Even if there is Muslim or minority population is there, the Muslims which have migrated to this part in the early 1930s, for example, at the time of Mughal aggression or Mughal invasion, majority of them have assimilated with the local population. They are called Assamiya Muslims because they have more identity with the indigenous people more than the people from the Barak Valley because more proximity to Bangladesh or the other Muslim region. So whenever some elections are this, the Daya or the DO Muslims or the Assamiya Muslims are also in favor of the major political party in power. That is one advantage for the party in the Upper Assam district. Then we come to the Middle Assam. The Middle Assam districts mainly fall, we say Hojai, Daugong, Golpara, Darang, and Borigaon. These are the districts in the Middle Assam district. Here in the Middle Assam district is a mixed population, but predominantly there are tea garden tribes plus Muslim population in this middle region or the Middle Assam portion. Whether, especially in places like Yagi Road, Hojai, and Borigaon and Daugong, sizable Muslim population is there. Unlike in the Upper Assam district, the assimilation of Muslim population in this region is not much as in the case of Upper Assam district because they want to keep their own identity. That is why a new political party, earlier there was a political party formed by Muslim leaders, that is United Minority Front, that is UMF. After the dissolution of the UMF, a new political outfit was formed by Badruddin Ajmal. He is a prominent businessman, and that party is the All India United Democratic Front, AUDF. Almost on the part of OBC, OBC, AIM, he is there trying. This party is steadily contesting, mainly banking on the support of Muslims in the Middle Assam region, particularly in the Hojai, Daugong, Borigaon belt. That is the answer. But here also, in the NDA Congress, these parties has also sizable following. And the tea garden workers, sizable percentage of tea garden tribes are also in this particular area, especially this Borigaon and Hojai area. Then comes the Lower Assam region. Lower Assam district is considered to be one of the strongholds of the Bodos. For example, there are 3 districts. Earlier it was Kokrajhar, one district was divided into Boksa and Bijalit, and another district, 3 districts, Chirag was there. So these 4 districts constitute the stronghold of the Bodos. Bodos are a particular tribes. They are having about 5% of total population in Assam. So these Bodo-dominated districts plus Lower Assam's, the other districts are the Guwahati, Kavaru Metropolitan, Kavaru Rural, then nearby Barpeta, Talbari, all these districts falling under Salmara, all these districts falling under the Lower Assam. Lower Assam is also considered to be very, very important because the tea garden and the various tribes, for example, Kochi Rajbangshi, tea tribes, the Bisiks, Rigangs, the different tribes are also in this particular Lower Assam region. So the Lower Assam is also now considered to be a stronghold of the present political dispensation NDA-BJP combination because of the various factors, just like the presence of the tribal communities. Plus, the added advantage is that in 2020, the NDA or the BJP could work out a long pending demand of the Bodos with a Bodo Accord in 2020, Bodo Accord was reached by the Modi government because there was protracted struggles in the Bodo region demanding almost on the lines of a separate Bodo state. It started in 1970 by Bodo organization, for example, APSU. Just like All Assam Students Union, from the side of Bodo, there was a student organization that is called All Bodo Students Union, very powerful in the 4 districts of Bodo-dominated districts. Then another committee was called Bodo People's Action Committee was formed. Then other militant organizations like Bodo Security Force, National Democratic Front of Bodoland, and different organizations, Bodo Liberation Front, they formed, they were in protracted struggles for a long period from 1980 onwards. Because during the Assam movement period, that is 1979 to 85 period, they gave full support to the Assam movement against the foreigners because the deportation of foreigners. But in 1985, the Assam Accord was signed. That we will come later. So after some differences were originated with the AGP government in power, and the long struggles and violent agitation started in the entire Bodo belt because a lot of killings, then all the rail lines were destroyed and the entire rail traffic was stopped, and it ultimately in 2020, a final solution would be reached by the present government, signing the Bodo Accord with a Bodo Territorial Council with autonomous powers was given. And after that, 2 prominent political parties have come up in the Bodo belt. That is, one is Bodo People's Front, and another one is UPPL, that is United People's Front Liberal. These are 2 prominent parties. In 2016 elections, the UPPL was with the BJP, and they could with considerable seat. Then in 2021 elections, they joined with the Congress, but on the other hand, BPM, that is Bodo People's Front, was aligned with the BJP or NDA, and they could also win sizable number of seats from the Bodo belt. So because of the support of the Bodo communities plus tea tribes in the region, this area is considered to be also advantageous for the present political dispensation or the political alliance in the center. Then last coming to this Barak Valley. Barak Valley has a distinct identity. It is entirely different from the Upper Assam districts or Lower Assam districts or the Middle Assam districts because it is bordering the Bangladesh and West Bengal side is bordering West Bengal, and majority of the population in this area is Muslims. So the districts here are the main districts here the main districts is Kachar is there, Hailagandi is there, and Karimganj is there. Entirely a different culture and socio-demographic future is occurring in this region. That is why sometimes some committees were suggested that there should be a separate union territory should be formed because there is language problem, language movement. There was a lot of killings and other things because there the Bengali people demanded Bengali as the language, which was opposed by the people from other part of the region. So they have a separate identity. And here the Congress party, politically, if you analyze the Congress party as well as this AIUDF, that is All India United Democratic Front of the Ajmal, Badruddin Ajmal has considerable following in this belt. That is the overall picture of the demographic and geographic feature of the Assam with a rough political situation. I have a political setup I have explained.
That's very useful, sir. That's very useful. And among the 13 chapters in this book, 13th chapter, of course, is looking forward. It's a summary and your take on how we should take it forward. But the 4th chapter of this book is titled as Assam Movement, a struggle for identity. And it's not only one chapter. I think subsequent chapters also discussing the identity, the debates and challenges, and the ethnicity conflicts in the region. So could you help us to understand when you say struggle for identity? You in the previous round you mentioned about Bangladesh, formation of Bangladesh, people coming from Bangladesh to Assam region, and of course, century back when British came, they also brought people from the current West Bengal of that time, the Bengal, to Assam. And there are so many other, I think you mentioned around 14 ethnic groups in Assam presently there. And last 30, 40, 50 years, I'm learning from this book that the Assam has also given birth to other new states in India. Mizoram is there, Meghalaya is there. Could you take us through the struggle for identity? That's the most important question I think you are trying to cover in this book. How identity becomes a big issue in Northeast.
It's a very significant question, the identity crisis in especially in the tribal region or the Northeast. For example, for many years, if we mentioned about Northeast, that means Assam. That was the situation. For example, the entire Northeast was the Assam. And at one time, the Sylhet district of Bangladesh was also part of the Assam. The larger Assam, which existed of the 1930s, the Sylhet district of Bangladesh, presently in Bangladesh, was also a part of the Assam. In the Red Cliff Award on the British side, the Sylhet has gone to Bangladesh, and after that, the almost entire Northeast was known as Assam. But as you rightly pointed out, that the demarcation or the formation of new states started. 1963, the Nagaland was formed. Then came the Meghalaya, then Mizoram, and last Arunachal Pradesh. And now the Assam is left behind, the remaining area with the regions which we discussed. But when we discuss about the Northeast or the particular situation in the Northeast, we can find that up to 1970s, when the entire Northeast was burning due to militancy or the identity issue or sovereignty, for example, the movement in Nagaland by Mizo movement was created a lot of bloodshed. Then as Mizoram, the Lalnanga was there. The nearby state, except Meghalaya, there was not much problem. But other states, Arunachal, no problem. But other Northeast states, for example, Tripura, that was a lot of killings. Tripura volunteers in 70s or 60s, a lot of killings was there. Manipur was there, Kagalopak and Pre-Pak and Kagalopak, Manipuri rebels, they have created a lot of bloodshed. So all these periods, Assam was by and large peaceful because the people there were peace-loving people. For example, when I landed in the Assam for the first time in the 1976, it was a very peaceful. Everywhere peaceful people were there. But situation gradually changed. Why it changed? The issue of identity crisis was surfaced because there was a feeling that we people of Assamese will be nowhere if the present situation continue. That feeling was there because the youth there have no problem. They have not agitated over the unemployment problem because if the cultivators conduct in one season paddy cultivation, they will stock all the paddy for 2 years. There was no, the neighbors will be helped. Very peaceful society was at that time. So things immediately changed because of so many factors. And main factors which the regionalism or the regional sentiments that was come up, mainly two parties played the main role. There was a veteran intellectual and a very prominent leader was there, that is Nirban Bora. He started the Purvanjali Lok Parishad. Purvanjali Lok Parishad raised the issue of regionalism that if Assam continues the present situation, the Assamese people their identity will be lost, their culture will be lost. Another organization that has come up was the Assam Jatiyatavadi Dal. That is also a regional outfit, almost on the lines of Nirban Bora he is propagated. Then came another youth organization, Assam Jatiyatavadi Yuvachatra Parishad, very militant line. They told that the foreigners, that the steady exodus of Bangladeshis from Bangladesh, Nepal and other parts, it has become a serious problem into the identity of the Assamese people here. So this issue was there, and all these factors contributed to the formation of the Assam Ganasangram Parishad. Assam Sahitya Sabha is a powerful body of Assam intellectuals. They flared up the issue through their write-ups. Their leaders prominently flared. So there was a very powerful student organization, All Assam Student Organization, All Assam Student Union, ASU. They came in the forward. Then there is the All Assam Ganasangram Parishad, that is a conglomeration of different parties, which is just like Purvanjali Lok Parishad, Assam Jatidavadi Dal, Assam Jatidavadi Yuvachitra Parishad, then Sadhu Assam Karmacharis Parishad. That is all the employees working in the various departments or various services of all these formed, and they formed the All Assam Ganasangram Parishad, and they started the movement against the foreigners movement. It is named because the detection and deportation of the all foreigners that who have come to Assam, this movement has started. So if you analyze their demands, these demands were genuine to a certain extent. For example, if we go back to the history of the Assam, we can say that there was continuous inflow of foreigners to this place. For example, in the early period, for example, 1931 period, when the Britishers were there, this provincial government came into power, and the provincial government, that Sadullah was appointed as the chief minister. Chief Minister Sadullah was a Muslim, and he encouraged the steady exodus or the steady migration of Muslims from Mymensingh district of Bangladesh. So this flow is continued. Then subsequently, what has happened after the 1947, the partition of the India, the East Pakistan was formed, a lot of torture and other things. Exodus of the people started from East Pakistan. Then 1952, there was a Nehru Liaquat Ali Pact was there. In Nehru Liaquat Ali Pact, it was agreed that the refugees coming from Bangladesh, the East Pakistan, as well as those going from India, they will be accommodated in a reciprocal basis, and their security will be safeguarded. At that time, the Chief Minister of Assam was Govindan Bardolai. Govindan Bardolai demanded, we cannot take all the burden of the refugees coming into the Assam. It should be shared by other states like Tripura or Manipur and other states. But none of the states agreed. And Nehru Liaquat Ali Pact and burden was imposed on the people of Assam, or the hordes of people migrated to the country. And in 1931, there is a census report. The superintendent of British 1931 census, C.S. Bullen, he made a very important comment that is the land-hungry hordes of people from Bengal, especially from Mymensingh, is steadily migrating. And if this process is continued, the identity, culture, and the present situation of the Assamese people will be ended for all. That is the quotation by C.S. Bullen, and the 1931 census report he has recorded. So these things continued. Political parties or the center or the state governments could not take any action to effective measures. The entire system has collapsed, and the steady exodus of people. Almost all the Char areas were inhabited by large hordes of population from East Bengal. The steady, and along with that, people from Nepal and other places came. Then came the language issue. The language issue was there during the British period. Britishers brought a large number of people from Bengal, educated people, Bengali-speaking people who worked in the tea gardens and other establishments in Assam. So all these people demanded that the Bengali is the main language. Bengali should be the main language. That was their demand. Byron Maynard, the American socio-political analyst, has made a very important comment at that time in his book. He stated that an impression was created by this Bengali mother-in-law to the British mind that Assamese is a corrupt, vulgar dialect. Bengali is the original language. Because of that influence, the Bengali was imposed over the sizable section of the Assamese population. The number of Bengali-speaking people increased steadily. All these things created some sort of feeling of alienation in the mind of Assamese people, thinking that their identity will be lost. Then the question of development issues has come up. For example, Assam, despite having a lot of natural resources, because the 50% of the crude oil is produced in the 60% of the entire tea produced in the country is from Assam. But correspondingly, they are not getting the corresponding benefit to the local people. So the demand has come up. In 1960, the demand came up from the establishment of an oil refinery. In 1956, our then Prime Minister, that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, made a visit to the Guwahati, Assam. Then hordes of people participated in a demonstration, shouting slogans that we want industrialization, we want the first oil refinery in this. But Nehru returned to Delhi and announced that the refinery will be in Baraudi in Bihar. Lot of agitation took place. The entire Assam Assembly, irrespective of political loyalties or political differences, they boycotted and resigned. The streets of Dispur and Guwahati and many places became the strong centers of agitation. And finally, the center has to change their decision. And the decision was that 2 refineries will be formed, one at Baraudi and another at Doonbatti in Guwahati, and the agitation subsided for the time being. Similarly, in 1962, it is misquoted now. Everywhere it is misquoted. 1962, the Chinese aggression took place. The Bombdila and Arunachal Pradesh, part of Bombdila, the Chinese army came. Then they entered into the Tezpur area of the Upper Assam. The Tezpur has become a host town. Then their people become panicky. At any time, China will occupy the larger portion of the Tezpur area. Then pandemonium was there. Then the famous speech of the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru is misrepresented. And even now it is misquoted in Assam. The speech was that my heart go out to the people of Assam. My heart go out with the people of Assam. It is misinterpreted even then, because a statesman made a statement, but the local people in the misinterpreted, Assam Sahitya Sabha and the local organizations misinterpreted that the government at the center at that time had no sympathy towards the people of Assam, as a result of which they were left behind without taking or giving any safety. All these factors contributed to the feeling that their identity will be lost, and Assamese identity, irrespective of the culture, the language, or in the case of their industrialization, they will be no more. All these factors were exploited by All Assam Students Union and All Assam Ganasangam Parishad, which started the movement in 1979. And the movement was such a sporadic movement, you could see, except the Barak Valley, the whole of Assam, Ganasatyagraha was there, Janata curfew was there, the state was deadlocked, and the entire state was in standstill for months, and the situation has developed, and Assam movement has become a success. But then came the 1983 elections, which we will discuss separately.
This is very insightful, sir. In fact, I encourage everybody to buy this book and read this detailed accounting of the developers, various developers from time to time in Assam. That has been, that will be more. It will give more understanding to anybody who's trying to understand Assam and the present and past Assam, how politically and economically and socially Assam evolved over centuries. In fact, the author has started with Bakhtiyar Khilji's time, when he invaded Assam, and he tried, and he was actually stopped by the locals in the first attempt, if I'm not wrong. Then subsequently, the author also discussed about Myanmar's invasion. Then we discussed Ahom coming to Assam, then Mughals coming to Assam, British coming to Assam. But what was more interesting to me while I was reading these different chapters was that whenever any of these invaders came to Assam, they also had their own gains in Assam. They were supported by locals, as they sought support from some of the locals. They brought people from outside to get that local support. Sometimes they antagonize the locals for various reasons. So only when you read the book, you understand, you get the complete picture. So it's not only about last 50 years or 60 years or 100 years. I think it's a matter of some 800, 900 years. Recorded history has been there, summarized in these books in different chapters. So I would like to, take this discussion forward by asking this question of, we talked about identity, and there are so many tribes in Assam, and some of the districts were later declared as different states in 60s, 70s, and 80s. But finally, the Ulfa movement came, and you have three chapters on Ulfa movement: how it started, what was the context of that, and also the state action on Ulfa. And even in the last chapter, you still mentions Ulfa. I don't think Ulfa is extinct, still there, but not more active or proactive as the way they lost their ground. So could you take us through the Ulfa and Assam record in 1985 and subsequent operations, Operation Bajrang and Reno, that I'm sure it will give an insight about the book and also the very important political period of Assam. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Danu. That is a very lengthy portion of the Assam genesis and their spread and other thing. But I will summarize only some the important aspects of the Assam movement. For example, when the Assam movement was progressing during the period 1979 to 85, there was a section of youth, especially of all Assam Students' Union section of youth. They were feeling that peaceful modes of agitation, just like the Ganasatyagraha and other, will not yield much result. We should follow the path of a militant line. So there was an organization called Jatiya Rakha Vahini, which was formed by such militant and another organization was All Assam Liberation Front. These two organizations were in an infant stage or in a nascent stage. They were building up their support for the idea of a protracted struggles. So in the last part of the 1979, when the movement was progressing and the AGP government was formed, after the 1985 Accord or 1985 Accord, the elections were held. Assam Ganasangram Parishad government was formed under Professor Kumar Pukan. So in 79, Ulfa was formed and systematically they built up their cadres. So the ideology of Ulfa was almost on a Marxist-Leninist line because more than the identity crisis, they also correlated the economic backwardness and the capitalist-oriented line of approach. That is exploitation of Assam by the center and other different forces, which was prominently highlighted by Ulfa from time to time. Because their projection was that the Assam people will not get a justice so long as such a colonialist setup, just like a capitalist-oriented setup will remain. So we should have a separate state, sovereign Assam.
Sir, you use this sentence in the book, Delhi's colonization will resist.
Yes, Delhi. That is why indirectly Delhi's colonization, that was one of the themes highlighted by them because Delhi remains apathetic to the genuine demands of the Assamese people so that we want a sovereign Assam. That was the slogan raised by Ulfa with a Marxist-Leninist lineage of the exploitation and caste struggle also was there. So there was one tactical deviation or tactics which Ulfa was adopted that all along the Assam movement, almost all the political parties or the ASU or Ganasangram Parishad was against the migration of people from Bangladesh or the migrants in short. But in the strategy announced by Ulfa, they found that the composite Assamese society or the culture will also include the immigrants. This was really surprise. For example, the leaders, the think tank like Nagan Saikia or Mahendra Bora, we were the think tanks or the main brain behind the Olasa Ganasangram Parishad or AJP, that ASU. They were surprised because how can a movement like Ulfa can accommodate the immigrants from Bangladesh, the foreigners? That was considered to be a tactical move because Ulfa subsequently interpreted as a tactical move because Ulfa is operating throughout the Assam in order to get the support of the masses, all categories of people, they adopted this tactical line of including the immigrants also in the large composite Assamese culture or society or the sovereign Assam they have envisaged. So systematically they built up their cadres by flipping up this propaganda or ideology of colonization of or Delhi or the exploitation of the people, be it in the industrialization or the tea industry. For example, they highlighted that the tea industry is getting 2,000 crores rupees per annum, but the state is getting a paltry sum of hardly some 140 crores. Their plywood factories, all were operating and controlled by the hierarchy at Calcutta. Tea garden also the same thing. Either they will be controlled by from London, or the majority of the tea gardens head offices are located in Calcutta or West Bengal, and the Bengal, the oil factories or the oil refineries are getting no due share. Crude oil is pumping from Dudbati and Digboi and Duliajan to Baraudi, it is a state outside Assam. All these issues were exploited as the clear instances of the exploitation of the resources and the people of Assam because of the colonialist approach of the center. That was the propaganda. So only a sovereign Assam would come into, will be the alternative in order to solve the issues of the people. This has created much impact among the middle class and youth. So they adopted a violent path because their strategy was that if anyone is opposing the ideology of this one, Ulfa, they have two alternatives, either go to heaven or just to leave the Assam. That was such an ultimatum because I have seen from my own eyes the Upper Assam districts of Tinsukia, Dibrugarh and Sibsagar, AK-47 building Ulfa cadres were openly moving through the streets, threatening the Marwadis and plywood owners and tea gardens and collecting money because no administration was there. The entire administration was paralyzed. Police was helpless. The district administration was helpless. Nobody could raise a voice against them. That was the situation was there in the and the AGP government led by Professor Ugar Maganda, they kept a conscious mute silence. They could not take any action because of the strong organizational network and arms holding. For a single example, at that time, how the ultimatum of the Ulfa prevailed in the state, they issued a direction that all the registered Bharati Gypsy vehicles by Marwadis and others in Upper Assam district should be deposited in a particular area somewhere near in a reserve forest in the Digboi, near there. And 90% of all the Bharati Gypsy vehicles were deposited because their ultimatum was there. Anybody opposing that one, they will be finished. That was the strategy because of they had the wherewithal to attack anybody. For example, the main resistance first was by the Old Kamaru Chamber of Commerce because there was a lot of extortion of money by them and by Ulfa cadres. So they tried to organize some protest programs in Guwahati, Old Kamaru, that is the Chamber of Commerce. That is that Girdarilal Halalka was the president there. So Ulfa gave an ultimatum that you stop the propaganda or the against the Ulfa. But he has not accepted that. He also tried to organize the merchants and other traders of the Guwahati area. And he was given 24-hour round-the-clock protection on the streets of the Guwahati. He was, despite such protection on the streets of Guwahati, he was shot at. Then I mentioned about that there is an all Assam minority morcha. That is an organization was formed having some feeble resistance against the Ulfa. And their leader, Kalibada Sen, was also shot at. Forget about these people. Police officers taking any action against the Ulfa cadres, they will be finished. For example, A.K. Malik, that was the SP Dibrugarh. There was a planned attack against A.K. Malik. Luckily, he saved, but his wife, one child and bodyguard were shot at in Dibrugarh district. Then the successor of A.K. Malik was Daulat Singh Negi, very ambitious young IPS officer from Himachal Pradesh of Assam cadre. He was the Dibrugarh SP. In a planned attack, he was also killed somewhere near Chalkova area of Dibrugarh district in 1990. So anybody opposing the Ulfa, they will be finished off. That was the, and another thing was that even in the oil establishments. For example, the Noonbatti refinery, that general manager of Noonbatti refinery was kidnapped. And after a lot of negotiations only, he was released. Then similarly, so many kidnapping extortions started, and tea gardens were in fear. Those tea garden management agreed to the suggestions to give the extorted money, they were saved. Anybody opposed, then they will be finished. For example, the Swaraj Paul. Swaraj Paul, the British magnate, the steel magnate, the Swaraj Paul. His group, his brother Surendra Paul has a dozen tea gardens in Upper Assam. In Tarajan Tea Estate, he has that Suraj Paul was said. Suraj Paul was not Suraj Paul, Surendra Paul. Surendra Paul, his brother was on a visit. He was shot dead. Then there was so much fear. So the majority of the tea gardens of Dunduma Tea Estate, they left from Calcutta. The tea gardens were in fear. Tata and other groups, they steadily gave the ransom to the world. And according to some statistics, over 500 crores of rupees were collected from tea gardens by this thing. So then they started training camps. Ulfa started the training camps. Initially, with the support in Kachin Independent Army. In Myanmar, the Kachin area, they started the training camps in Kachin Independent Army, gave the support for training camps. All the senior leaders went there, had a training there, got weapons there. Then came, when they demanded more money for the training and other facilities, they approached the NSCN of the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, two factions. The Kaplang faction was very powerful in Nagaland. Then they operated their training camps in some part of the Myanmar, in Burma. Then even linkages were established with the Pakistan through ISI. Then the majority of the Pakistan, Bangladesh Indian border were given. Then Bhutan also training camps were, but there was no dearth of money. When such a terrorized situation was created in Assam, ultimately the president rule was imposed and Operation Pajarik and Operation Rhino started. This is the background of the beginning of the Ulfa movement and how operation started.
Sir, the Ulfa movement, you have given all the details, Paresh Barua to all the top leadership accounts and how India state actually negotiated with them. And you also have a view, we have also have an observation in the book that sometimes we had a we failed to assess the ground situation, or probably there was a soft political approach to the whole issue. From time to time, it varied from time to time. That's my understanding. And we pay the price also. But given the context of the, now in the present context, we look at our neighbors. You have mentioned in the book that in early 2000, Bhutan government flushed out all the extremist elements from the Bhutan territory. And later on, when Awami League came to power, Sheikh Hasina's friendship with India helped India government to pursue her to flush out militants from Bangladesh. But given the changing order, given the recent changes in the neighborhood, do you think this Ulfa and other extremist elements will again, emerge, or probably they will resurrect their actions?
It's a very futuristic question in the sense that prognostic questions. The first part I will come that, but I will not go into the detail. For example, in 1991, because of the Ulfa operations, how the operations temporarily failed because of the political interventions and the lopsided decisions at the higher level. I will not go into the details of that. I will come to the second part of your question pertaining to the what should be the future of what should be the situation of the terrorist or militant groups in the Northeast. So I have already indicated that the present government has succeeded to a great extent to bring some of the important militant or insurgent groups across the negotiated tables. The result was that the Bodo I mentioned was the Bodo Accord of 2020. And in the Karbi Anglong and North Kachar district, there was a very powerful movement called, that is the all Kachar, all Karbi Anglong and Kachar movement was there. North Kachar Hills movement was there. that also to a great extent, they could establish an accord in September 2021. The government was reaching an accord with the army, giving some sort of status is there. So these factors to a great extent helped. And ULFA, the main terrorist organization or the most dreaded terrorist organization, the ULFA also, one faction of the ULFA, led by the prominent leader Aravind Rajkova, that was the president, that in 2023, government could reach an understanding with Aravind Rajkova, and a lot of concessions were announced into the Assam on the lines of a memorandum, in the light of a memorandum submitted by Aravind Rajkova. So the main problem now is the Paresh Baruwa. A faction led by Paresh Baruwa, that is an alpha faction led by Paresh Baruwa, is still operating from Bangladesh. And the latest report that was given by the Home Minister Amit Shah in the parliament is that because of the situation in Burma and Bangladesh, Paresh Baruwa could establish some sort of linkages with some elements in the Yunnan province of China, because the Yunnan province from the Indo-Bangladesh, Myanmar border, it will go up to the Yunnan province of the China. So some sort of linkages were established. That is the one fact. But even now, efforts through mediators are going on. And what there is a very prominent man, Revati Pukan, because if you say the background of this Paresh Baruwa, Paresh Baruwa was from a small village from Yaraigaon in the Dibrugarh district. He was a very small fry at one time. When the Assam movement was there, he was a very small guy. He was not very active. The Paresh Baruwa was there in the Yaraigaon. He was a very good footballer. And Revati Pukan was also a footballer. Some sort of mediatory efforts are still going on to establish some contacts with the Paresh Baruwa and bring him to across the negotiating table. But the main problem there is that Paresh, all of a sudden, or the anti-talk faction of Paresh Baruwa or ULFA is not in a position to forgo their demand of sovereign Assam. So the latest mediation efforts, the one point highlighted by the Paresh faction or the anti-talk faction is that the theme of sovereignty may be included in the discussions, and subsequently we will reconsider the suggestions, and ultimately if it is agreeable, we will work out some sort of negotiated settlement. So on that line, the discussions are going on. Meanwhile, as you have rightly pointed out, what are the problems in the neighboring states? The neighboring states, the main problem arises in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, all along, despite the fact that it is the Awami League or Bangladesh Nationalist Party, they were directly or indirectly supporting the insurgent movement. Because just like in Pakistan, in Bangladesh also, pro-Indian line cannot be openly propagated among the people. That was the problem. Khalida Sia, because the problem that Bangladesh National Party is adopting an anti-Indian stance, but the Awami League, though having pro-soft Indian lines, all along they cannot openly propagate it because of the domestic political compulsions. So during the Khalida Sia regime, the ULFA was getting full support. Bangladesh Nationalist Party, it was getting full support for the Cox's Bazar and Chittagong and other parts. The ULFA cadres were given asylum, and the Bangladesh Rifles given protection for some of the leaders like Anup Chetia. All were happening at the time of that time, because these were the disclosures made by the senior leaders during interrogation. These are all factual facts, because Khalida Sia regime was given the extensive support to the insurgents, not only to ULFA but other insurgents operating from the Indo-Bangladesh border. The typical example was the 2004. That is Chittagong Chittagong arms hold. 10 truckloads of arms meant for ULFA was brought to Chittagong port. At that time, it was the full support of the Khalida Sia government. That is, subsequently it was intercepted because of a lot of pressure from the Indian side. That 10 full truckloads of sophisticated guns meant for ULFA was the Harbin or in the Chittagong port. So that was the situation. Now the situation has changed. The thing is that Muhammad Yunus regime has reigned. In this, the radical has got a very upper hand. Now virtually the Jamaat Islami and Chhatra Parishad, Bangladesh National Freedom Party of Colonel Faruqi, then others like Huji, all the Jamaat-e Mujahideen, all these forces were controlling the administration and is having strong anti-Indian lines. So these forces are trying, and there are also indications that ISI in collaboration with these forces are trying to vigorously pursue the balkanization strategy of the ISI. So how they can operate is that Barakwali, which he mentioned that a number of nascent militant radical organizations has formed up in Barakwali. This Barakwali area is bordering Bangladesh, so they are getting some sort of assistance, especially from Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh, then the Freedom Party of Colonel Faruqi, then the Huji, then the Jamaat-e-Mujahideen. There are so many forces, and correspondingly local level sleeper cells or domestic cells were formed at Barakwali. So these elements will get some sort of support, but the administration, how the administration will deal it, that will be the main problem, that will be the main issue. In the present context, when the government is strong, it's a very strong measures are taken by the central and state governments, especially the Assam government is taking very strong measures. I think these militant groups cannot go much ahead of their present operations or strategies.
So, I have one more question. We were discussing the ethnicity and identity crisis. And in this context, your chapter on NRC and CA are very, very important. And while I was reading this chapter, I understood that this is not a recent issue of last few years. It is an issue that was there for so many decades. It has been revisited, and gone to the court at times, Supreme Court of India. And now with the CA agitation, we all know that what happened in Assam. It's a very, very sensitive topic, politically very important topic for many of them. Could you take us through the CA and RC process that was started post 1950s, and in the context of identity and ethnicity, and the migrant population that was always at the receiving end of various administrations, and also the reason for various political agitations in Assam?
Thank you, Dr. Danu. The two issues, NRC and CA, are interrelated when we discuss this thing. For example, NRC, as he rightly pointed out, is that because the NRC was already in 1951, there was an NRC. After that, it was not there. So immigration issue, that the foreigners issues was come up from time to time. So almost all the organizations, ASU, all Assam Students Union, they have vigorously taken up the issue. That in 1985 Accord, this was also majorly up, that is upgradation of this NRC was also a major issue. So, but finally, an NGO, government-based NGO, Assam People's Work, Assam People's Work, and a government-based NGO took the initiative, and there was a decision from the Supreme Court of India that the NRC should be immediately started, and as a result of that, some NRC efforts were vigorously started. The criteria for NRC was fixed. So those who have come to India at the 25th March 1971, and those who are figuring in 1951 automatically those form. So those who have come to Assam till March 25, 1971, and their descendants will be accommodated. Those who are figuring in the voters list will also be accommodated, and so many documents were there. Number of documents, 1 dozen documents which were accepted by the authorities to prove the domicile or the identity were also accepted, though the process started. And this process started, more than 3.29 crores of people were submitted their applications for NRC upgradation. About 6.6 crores of applications documents were examined. Then the initial report was published. And the latest position, which I say, is that I will not go into the details of the figures. The latest position was that about out of 3.29 people submitted the application for NRC, 3.11 crore were accepted in the NRC, and the remaining about 40.5 lakhs where people were left behind. Their cases were pending. A lot of allegations were there that so many people, especially Banakwali, was excluded. But government has clarified the position, even those pending cases, those who are pending in their cases will be processed again. They can approach the tribunal or the courts. So the issue has subsided to a great extent. Now the question is mainly of the some 19 lakh people because left behind. Out of the 19 lakh people, because not included in the NRC, 6 lakh people belong to Hindus and another 7 lakh people are Muslims, their cases are pending. That is the important point which we discussed with the CAC. That is the Citizens Amendment Act that we have to do. So, why the organizations, particularly ASU and local political parties, are opposing the CAC, that is CAA, that is Citizens Amendment Act, is that their main concern is that 6 lakh Hindus who are left behind in the NRC will automatically get accommodated the citizenship or will get the citizenship if the CAA Act is imposed, is finally accepted. Similarly, 7 lakh, even though CAA Act is not prescribing the case of Muslims, it is only the case of the Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Jains, and Sikhs who have come from Bangladesh, Pakistan, or Afghanistan due to persecution. Their case is sorted out by the CAA as per the Citizenship Amendment Act. But here the people, particularly ASU and other local political parties, anticipate that the case of 7 lakh people who are left behind in the NRC and the Muslims, they will also finally be cleared by tribunal and they will also come as part of the Assami citizens. So 6 plus 7. So the Hindus will also automatically get the citizenship, that 6 lakh Hindus who are left behind. This has caused much concern for the organizations, particularly ASU and AAG, the All Assam Sangram Parishad, Puvajali Lok Parishad, etc. Because if these people will also will be accommodated, then there will be problem for the indigenous Assami. The identity issue will also become up. So their demand is that irrespective of religion, all those people who have migrated to Assam after 1971 and do not figure in the electoral roll or other NRC should be deported, detected and deported. That is the stand taken. In that sense, this 6 lakh people will not get accommodated. But the government is not following this thing. The central government has issued compulsions, or the present BJP or NDA government in Assam is also having their own compulsions not to accept this demand. The problem is that suppose these 6 lakh Hindus will also be accommodated, there will be a pro-Hindu sentiment, especially in Marathwali and Bengali Hindus, that this will also turn to their advantage. So there is a thinking that these people should also be accommodated under the positions of CAR. That will be a politically advantageous for the people. That is the thinking. But it is mainly opposed by ASU and Ganasangram Parishad and the local organization, because some sort of package formula is now suggested. The latest move in this regard is that a cabinet subcommittee was constituted by the center to explore the various provisions interlinked with is the clause 6 of the Assam Accord. Here come 1985 clause 6 of the Assam Accord. Clause 6 of the Assam Accord, signed by central government, Rajiv Gandhi, ASU, AAGSP, and Assam government, states that there should be constitutional, legislative, and administrative safeguards to protect the linguistic heritage and identity and the composite culture of the Assamese. That is the clause. That clause is not implemented so far. So this committee will also examine how can this clause may be implemented. That committee was appointed only recently. I think last year only committee was appointed. So committee is making one suggestion is that the introduction of interline permit. The introduction of the interline permit is one of the suggestions made by the cabinet subcommittee, that those who are coming to Assam and staying from other regions, they should go to only with a certain areas of the districts. Once a state is declared as with the interline permitted state, then this Sixth, the Constitution Sixth Amendment, as per the Sixth Amendment, they will be excluded from the provisions of the Citizens Act. So, in order to work out an amicable formula, the government is trying to pacify the ASU and the regional parties, and as well as to protect the Hindus who are not included in the NRC. They may also be accommodated in the state. That is the latest move from the part of the central government.
So because of the paucity of time, I think we have to conclude here. But
Yes.
I think the book has also have details of various autonomous councils were envisaged and even practiced, and some of them survived, some of them were dismantled over a period of time. That is one. And I also understand from one of your earlier chapters that says that the inner permit was also a reason for some issues later on. I don't know whether we are going to revive the whole issue in a new bottle, the whole wine in the new bottle. I'm not so sure, because I understand the sixth schedule and the provisions in the Citizen Amendment Act, but inner permit, as far as your observations, if I understood very well, I mean, your views were not in favor of inner permit for the historical reasons, because of the historical antecedents that we have experienced in Assam region. Inner permit became a reason for that. And the third one is, I think we didn't get time to look into the infrastructure development and the dam building dams and other that actually causes floods and irreparable damage to the ecosystem in the Assam region. And you also had observation towards the end of the chapter that there's a contract nexus between contractors, bureaucrats, and politicians, or with all the these insurgent groups that take advantage of the situation. And I think this book gives a wonderful description of what Assam is all about. And anybody who's trying to understand, researching on Assam, I really recommend to buy this book. And this book is available in all the online platforms. So your final thoughts before we conclude.
Thank you, Dr. Manu and CPPR, for giving an opportunity to have a discussions about this book. And the promotion and marketing of the book is exclusively done by Manas. They have a network in Delhi and other places. So I am not much concerned about the promotion of the marketing, but you have taken this opportunity. And I am especially thankful.
No, this is a must-read book, sir. I mean,
Yes,
I read it. So
that's because I have made a lot of effort, because as you pointed out, that thanks for your compliments. At the same time, I also like to point out that I want to project a very balanced view about the Assam situation in many things. For example, in 1983 elections chapter, there is a special chapter is there. How 1983 election was imposed because of political interests in Delhi and Assam, and how much damage it was caused to the people of Assam. 2,500 people were killed, butchered in Delhi. Delhi massacre has become one of the greatest dark chapters in the Indian history. Delhi is a district somewhere near.
Shekhar Gupta often writes, and in fact, you also quote Shekhar Gupta in your book.
It was written a lot about that, and I had an opportunity to see the butchered people, and the Kopili River has really become bloody, because the totally blood that Kopili River just is flowing on the side of the villages of Delhi villages. I had seen the butchered peoples, the shattered houses, and the damaged plantation. This thing is the dastardly sight was there in the Delhi massacre. I visited that area. After the massacre, I had gone to that area along with the CRPF contingents. So that was imposed. It was even from the beginning of 1983, the intelligence reports and security agencies reported that it is impossible to hold elections in Assam. And initially, no constituency except the 8 constituencies in Barakwali can be hold election. Then subsequently, all the bureaucrats and security experts gradually changed their tone. When the centers of power demanded that this should be there, then they also changed the tone. And ultimately, the election was imposed. A government was installed. That is there. And the percentage of polling in that particular election was only 32%. That you can imagine how an election was manipulated. And in 91 states, one particular party won there. Similar thing has happened in 1991. 1991, Ulfa made a tactical move. They were deadly opposing elections in Assam in 1991 during the Operation Bajranga started. But they made a tactical move and had some sort of move, and with the political leadership, they gave an indication that they will not disrupt the elections. Then the elections were held, and how much killings were took place. Then when the new government was installed, Wolfgang again started their activity. 15 officials were, including a Russian engineer, was kidnapped. And the amount of negotiations, this thing and other thing, and so many persons were killed during the process of negotiation. Ulfa and made an advantage, and they established their bases in more and more areas. All these things. So I will not go into details in all these books because you have given an opportunity. I was thanked to Dr. Daru and the CPPR team for giving an opportunity to discuss about this book. And thank you once again. And if any questions are pertaining from any part, I will try to answer the question.
Sir, before we conclude, I would like to take a last question from Professor Abraham, sir, who has joined us online. Sir, please take the stage to ask your question, sir.
Unmute.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. I'm sorry I haven't, I could not read your book still. From what you spoke, what I understand, I can be informed by you. What was the ethnic nature of this Ulfa? Was it something communal, or was it, did it include all ethnic people or communal, religious people?
Sir, Ulfa, almost all the communities of Assam, tribals, and they were included in the Ulfa because they had 2-3 different programs. While doing all this violence as well as militant activities, they had a lot of social work also. Construction of bridges, inside roads, the social activities, they also launched that. Some sort of terror was created at the same time they undertook the social activities also. Because of this twofold or the threefold strategy, they could not make or attract all sections of people. And their tactical approach, because I already mentioned, sir, the problem was that initially all the regional organizations or the local organizations opposed the foreigners, that is immigrants from Bangladesh. But in the policy program or the strategy announced by the ULFA, they highlighted that the immigrants from Bengal will also be part of the Assamese composite culture and society. So that was a tactical move to get the support of all sections of the people in order to continue their violent activities and secret activities. For example, if a guerrilla organization is not getting the support of all sections of people, then naturally they will get alienated, or the security forces will be an upper hand. Because just like Mao has highlighted, sir, Mao has said a guerrilla organization should be just like a fish in the water. The water means the society. So then only they can effectively operate. So that same strategy that ULFA has adopted, because even though all the local organizations were against the immigrants, that is the people from Bangladesh, ULFA in this strategy very specifically initially highlighted as a tactical move that the people from West Bengal or the immigrants will constitute part of the composite Assamese culture and society envisaged by them. But subsequently, when the differences started and the two groups formed the Paresh Barua faction, it took an entirely different line. Entirely different line in 2000. After 2000, Paresh Barua, one faction of the ULFA, took a different line. All migrants into the Assam, they are rivals or threat to Assam. That is why he made an announcement that we will not allow it for Bidi Bihar, we will not allow it for Bidi Rajasthan, or we will not allow Bidi UP in Assam. All the people migrants to Assam are the enemies of our state. That is all tactical moves of organizations.
Sir, do you mean to say still the problem of Assam is rather the social problem? I don't call it economic. It is between the identity, the Ahom, the Assami identity or Assami ethnicity versus a composite Assam? Is it between the two?
That you cannot say, sir. Identity means each ethnic group try to maintain their identity. For example, Bodos, they want to maintain their identity. That is why they were struggling for separate Bodo land. Another tribe is the Karbis there. Karbi Anglong district and North Kachar Hills, the Karbis there. They want their own identity. Then Assamia, there are so many tribes. Betis, then Morais, then Tai Ahams, Rajbangshis. They all want their own identity. So identity means ethnic identity. That is the main problem here. But in a common cause, for example, in the cause of a foreigners movement in 1979 to 85, foreigners movement, all these groups came together. Even the tribal association came together. APSU, I mentioned that all Bodo Students Union and the Bodo People's Action Committee, they gave full support to the All Assam Students Union and Ganasangra Parishad. On foreigners issues, or for example, the immigrants issue, the ethnic differences will narrow down, they will unite together. For example, the immigrant issue. For example, that's a main problem, the steady exodus of immigrants from Bangladesh, then Nepal, and also from other states. Now, a lot of killings of the tribals, Sandal tribals were killed by Ulfa. Then Bodos also killed the tea tribes. Then clashes between tea tribes. Then Marwadis, Rajasthanis, Biharis. In 2000, there were so many Bihari workers were killed in Tinsukia and other districts because the migrants were opposite. That is why Ulfa gardens killed. And even Bodos targeted tea gardens there. But all the main cause of their immigrants, illegal immigrants, they unite together. Otherwise, each ethnic group is trying to uphold their own identity. So many, that is why this autonomous councils was come up. Bodoland Territorial Council is there, Karbi Anglong Territorial Council is there, North Kachar Hills Territorial Council is there, then Moran and Motak Autonomous Council is there, mainly in order to uphold their identity. And in order to accepting such demands, the present government at in the center and the state is pacifying the sentiments of these people. That is their political advantage.
Maybe it's a comment. Maybe I just
Sir,
addition to
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So sorry to
Okay.
intervene, sir. It's just due to the paucity of the time.
All right.
We
All right.
have
All right.
to close.
All right.
We can take this up on a later conversation. So
That's okay.
thank you, Dr. Dhanuraj, and thank you, Mr. Thomas, sir, for a thoughtful and insightful conversation. And the book Assam Inside and Outside offers a rare and grounded perspective on the complex realities of Assam and the Northeast. And today's conversation has helped us bring all those themes come to life. And also thank you, Professor Abraham, sir, to bringing such important questions to our audience, as well as to everyone who has joined us online for this conversation. So for all those who are interested in exploring the themes more, I would recommend buying this book, and the book is available on Amazon and Flipkart. And so do follow Center for Public Policy Research for updates on our upcoming events and publications. Once again, thank you all for being with us today, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Srilashmi. Thank you.
Thank you.